How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Infinite Sports. I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, to preview the World Series rematch between the Yankees and the Dodgers that will take place this weekend out in LA. Before I do that, we didn't get a chance to recap the final game of the previous series for the Yankees out in Anaheim against the Angels. They ended up winning that 1-0. That was on Wednesday night. I believe that was their third 1-0 victory of the season. The first one came against the Rays in Tampa. Second one came recently in the final game against the Texas Rangers. So the Yankees once again win 1-0. And they got their one and only run in the first inning. Bases loaded, Anthony Volpe hits a sac fly off of Yusei Kikuchi that scores a run. And that was all the scoring. Now, some of the things we'll talk about with that game. One, Aaron Judge got intentionally walked twice in his first two at-bats, which was interesting by Ron Washington. Him and Aaron Judge were going back and forth with that. Friendly. There was no animosity between the two, obviously, but Ron Washington was having fun with that. You expect that at times with Judge, but you expect that later in games, not his first two at-bats. Well, not his first at-bat, really. But that happened. So that was the only run of the game. Yusei Kikuchi, he went 5 innings, 5 walks, gave up 4 hits, 1 earned run, which was the sac fly. And then for the Yankees, you had Clark Schmidt going 6 innings. He got his ERA under 4. It's now down to 3.95. Gave up 4 hits, 4 strikeouts, 1 walk. And the bullpen did its job. Ian Hamilton pitched an inning in 2/3. Tim Hill came in, got 1 out late in the game. And then Mark Leiter Jr., because the Yankees were shorthanded in the bullpen, Mark Leiter Jr. came in, had a couple of strikeouts. He did walk a batter, but he was able to pick up the save. And the final at-bat, that strike 3 call, I kept saying it, that was a terrible call. I will say it. That was a terrible call. That should not have been a strike. The Yankees got bailed out there. But not really much to take away from the game. They did sweep the Angels, which you love to see. They take another series, and that sets the stage for the rematch against the Dodgers, which we will talk about right now. So, like I said, it is a World Series rematch. I did want to get into what some of the players had to say on the Yankees side when it came to receiving their American League Championship rings. So, Giancarlo Stanton will not be playing in this series. He's still a little bit further down the line. He's going to be beginning rehab games soon. And then, he should be back within the next, 3 weeks, I would say, it looks like. But Jazz Chisholm will be back probably next week. He's starting rehab games. But this is what Stanton said. He said, this is the one we want. This isn't the one we wanted, boys. He said, the one that we want is in front of us. I better not see any of you guys wearing these around. And I also saw that Anthony Volpe was reluctant to taking his, so he ended up giving it to his dad. Carlos Rodon, who we could potentially see this weekend, pitch on Sunday, he said getting this is basically calling yourself a first loser. That's what it represented to me. And then Aaron Judge said how bad it hurt getting all the way there to the end and not getting the final prize. I think that'll stick with guys forever. Yeah, that was a tough World Series to watch as a Yankee fan. And we've talked about it, going over the Knicks series with the Pacers and kind of comparing, the Game 1 collapse to what happened in the World Series. Yeah, the World Series was tough because you felt like the Yankees could have won more than just one game. They definitely could have. They definitely could have stole Game 1, and then obviously what happened in Game 5 that will live on forever. It was bad. It was bad. And Freddie Freeman, who we will see in this series, had a World Series for the ages. In 5 games, he had 6 hits, 4 home runs, and 12 RBIs. Killed the Yankees in the series. Of course, hit the walk-off grand slam in Game 1. Yeah, we will be seeing him this weekend, and he's picking up where he left off in the World Series. In 167 at-bats this season, he's batting .359, 9 homers, 36 ribbies, and he has a .1044 OPS. So he's going to be a problem in this series, you would imagine. You also have to worry about Mookie Betts and Shohei Ohtani, who's having a great year, and he's going to be pitching soon. He leads the league in homers right now at this current moment with 20. Teoscar Hernandez, is going to give them problems. I do think the Yankees have an advantage in this series because the Dodgers right now have a ton of injuries with their pitching staff. You have Glass now on the IL. You have Blake Snell on the IL. You have Roki Sasaki on the IL. And you got a ton of guys in the bullpen that are also on the IL. Michael Kopech, Kirby Yates. There's a ton of guys out right now. So, the Dodgers, they got off to this great start. They were 8-0, but they've kind of come back down a little bit. They're still having a very good year, but, the pitching right now is a concern. They're not at full strength. But right now, they're 2 games up on the Padres in the NL West. They're 34 and 22 on the year. They're going to be fine. And once they get all those guys back, they're going to, take off. They did recently trade for Edwin Diaz's brother from the Cincinnati Reds to help out in the bullpen, Alexis Diaz. So, for the Dodgers, you're hoping that helps. But, they're having a very good year. And so are the Yankees. And, one of the main conversations going into this series is, are the Yankees this year better equipped to beat the Dodgers as opposed to last year? And I think when both teams are at full strength, I think so. Because, again, going back to the World Series, one of the reasons why the Yankees lost the World Series is because they kicked the ball all over the field. That 5th inning was a microcosm of their season. With Judge dropping the ball out in center field, which he shouldn't have dropped. I mean, he took his eyes off it, but that shouldn't have happened. And then, you had Volpe throwing to third, and Chisholm, couldn't make a clean play on it. And then, of course, Garrett Cole and Anthony Rizzo, the miscommunication there, nobody covered first. Now, the Yankees, that's been different. Goldschmidt will take it. Max Fried runs over and covers. The Yankees are doing a much better job with the basics. You would think they'd have that down, but with these guys now on the team, it's looked better. And, they don't have Garrett Cole, which hurts. But Max Fried, who we will see tonight, he has pitched admirably. He has been awesome. He has filled the void that was lost with Garrett Cole being out for the year. I mean, this is as best as he could be. The Yankees only lost 1 game that he's pitched, and it wasn't his fault. It was an extra innings. And I feel good about the game tonight. I mean, this is going to be a true litmus test for the Yankees going up against the Dodgers, even with them not being at full strength with their pitching. The Yankees will see Tony Gonsolin, who's still trying to work his way back. But, yeah, I think the Yankees, the way their team is, they feel more complete. And once you get Stanton and Jazz back, you're going to be even more complete. So, and we'll talk about Jazz at some point in this episode because there's some update. Well, I did bring up that he's going to come back soon, but I wanted to bring up something else with him where he could be playing when he comes back. But, yeah, I mean, look at the lineup with the Yankees. Judge is obviously having a season for the ages. Every time I think Goldschmidt is going to slow down, he keeps hitting. Paul Goldschmidt, that was a bargain. That is turning out to be a really good signing for the Yankees. And that was something that, Yankee fans weren't really too ecstatic about when that move was made because, Goldschmidt was coming off of a subpar year, but he was much better in the second half with the Cardinals. And Cashman took a chance on him, and he's been a hitting machine. He gets on base. He has been unbelievable, and he really could pick it over at first base. The Yankees really weren't getting a lot of production out of first base the last couple of years because, unfortunately, Anthony Rizzo got hurt, and I just feel like that concussion, set him back. But Goldschmidt has really been producing. I mean, he's batting in the 340s right now. He's been unbelievable. And now Cody Bellinger is heated up, former Dodger. So I'm curious to see what kind of reception he's going to get. I mean, he's been at Dodger Stadium a handful of times, but now as a Yankee, are they going to boo him? I mean, I don't think so. I mean, the Yankees traded for him. But Bellinger's been great. Judge, like I said, is having a very good year. The lineup is, I don't think the lineups are out yet because obviously this game is on later tonight. But um, those guys have been really good. Ben Rice has been good. Trent Grisham's kind of slowed down. We talk about Anthony Volpe, and I've had my complaints with Volpe with runners in scoring position, but he's, he's like top three in RBIs on the team this year. I think it's top three. I think he leads, if I'm not mistaken, he leads all shortstops in RBIs this year. So he is driving in runs. And he's not having this god awful season offensively. We'd like to see a little bit more production, but he's been better than I think we all have been reacting to in a negative way. Because the way we react, it's like you would think he's having, he's batting under 200 and, he's not doing anything. It's because he's been coming up in so many big spots lately that we're like, this guy does nothing. But he's doing better than we think. And he's playing good defense. So, yeah, I'm curious to see how this series goes. So the three pitching matchups. So Max Fried against Tony Gonsolin. We talked about that. Then tomorrow's game. Well, tonight's game's on Apple TV. So reminder, if you have a friend, a family member, or if you have Apple TV, make sure you tune in. It's on Apple TV. Tomorrow it's on Fox. So you have Will Warren, who's been pitching very good as of late, going up against Landon Knack, who is 2-2 with a 5.22 ERA. And then we still don't have a starter listed for Sunday, but Yoshinobu Yamamoto will be going for the Dodgers. And he's been one of the best pitchers in baseball. I hope it's Carlos Rodon because, you want to have your best guys going this week against, one of the best teams in the league. But if it's Ryan Yarbrough, so be it. He's been good. And the Yankees, their bullpen is well rested for this series. That's the other thing, too. Because the last couple of nights against the Angels, they really didn't have everybody available. That's why you saw Devin Williams pitching the ninth. That's why you saw Mark Leiter Jr. pitching. But now, with the off day in between that series and this one, everybody's ready to go. So everybody's going to be available. I expect Fried to go deep into this game, hopefully give them, 6 quality innings, and then you hand it off to the bullpen. But we'll see. There should be a lot of fireworks in this game. This is the first time that Judge will be playing right field in the regular season at Dodger Stadium since the incident from a couple of years ago when he ran into the wall and broke his toe and he was out for a month and a half. Because obviously in the World Series he was playing center field last year with Soto out and right. But yeah, no, I'm excited. It should be a good series. Look, for people to say this is a meaningless series, it means something. It means something. Now, if the Yankees win 2 out of 3, that doesn't mean, we avenged our loss from the World Series last year. No, but these games are very important because they could definitely mean something down the line when it comes to seeding and winning your division. Because I've brought this up several times. If they would have won some of those games that, they blew in the later innings last year, they could have been the team hosting the World Series last year, not the Dodgers, and maybe that would have made a difference. Again, we don't know, but it could have meant something. So these games do mean something. And again, I think it's a test for both teams. The Yankees are playing good baseball. I know the Dodgers. There's been a couple of games that they've blown late. I mean, they blew that game against the Guardians the other day, again because their bullpen is, injured right now with all the pitching injuries. But, it does mean something. Now, I want the Yankees to win 2 out of 3 because, that's a very good team you're going up against. I don't care how many pitchers are injured for them. They still got the lineup. The lineup is pretty much still intact. So, it does mean something, but not to that magnitude. Like, if they were actually playing in the World Series. And we could see that. We could see that in October, a World Series rematch. But we got a long way to go before then. I think these are going to be 3 very good games. And something else with the Yankees, and Aaron Boone has mentioned it in one of his press conferences, and, I kind of alluded to it talking about, the 1-0 victories. The Yankees could beat you in different ways. They could score a lot of runs, but they could also win some very close ball games. So, we'll have to see. We'll have to see how it goes. Because obviously Yamamoto is one of the best of the best. That's coming up on Sunday. So again, that's going to be a true test for this team and what they're made of. So I would have loved to have had Stanton and Chisholm make their returns for this series because if you remember, Stanton came off the IL a couple years ago against the Dodgers. Now, well, the Yankees did win 2 out of 3, and that came in the series that Judge hurt his toe. But he did hit a couple of home runs in his return. That was off of Clayton Kershaw. And actually, so this is a tweet from Sarah Langs. With the Dodgers and Yankees facing off this weekend, if when a Yankee lineup with Judge, Bellinger, and Goldschmidt faces a Dodger one with Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman, it'll be the first time a game had 3 former MVPs in each batting order. There has been one prior game where both teams started 3 former MVPs, but one was a pitcher, so not in the batting lineup, and that was in 2023. Judge, Stanton, and Donaldson, and for the Dodgers it was Betts, Freeman, and Kershaw, who the Yankees will not see in this series. Also, something else that was interesting that I saw is, and this is courtesy of John Boy, the Yankees lead the league in pickoffs. The Dodgers lead the league in getting picked off by lefty pitchers, and they got Max Fried going tonight. So you kind of figure, and he's very good with that. Him and Andy Pettitte really worked on that. Wouldn't surprise me if we see that tonight. And then also, so back to talk about Jazz, because I mentioned Jazz again. So I know there's a lot of people that complain about Jazz, kind of like with his attitude, when he was tweeting after he got ejected, things like that. There's some people that are rubbed the wrong way with Jazz, but you know what? Jazz is a team player because he said when he comes back, he's going to do whatever Aaron Boone tells him to do, wherever he's going to play. And it seems like he's going to end up going back to third base because now with DJ LeMahieu back and him playing so well at second base defensively, Jazz Chisholm is going to shift over to third. And I get it. Because, and the other thing too is there's less wear and tear when you're playing at second base as opposed to third base. I think that's, and it makes sense because LeMahieu is getting older. So, but it kind of frustrates me in a way because I kind of walked back on my feeling of the Yankees letting go of Gleyber Torres. I was okay with it. I'm still okay with it, but when they moved him after he got benched, right? He looked like a different player, right? He was hitting the ball better, and they moved him into the leadoff spot again. And he really produced, and he had a good postseason, and he's having a very good season with the Tigers. Now, you could say, well, the season he's having with the Tigers doesn't mean he'd have it with the Yankees. Different circumstances, different team. All right, but the Yankees never really replaced Gleyber Torres with someone else. They kind of just filled everything up from within. Right? Oswaldo Cabrera started off at third base, and Jazz Chisholm played second. And now LeMahieu's come back, and now he's slid in with Oswaldo Cabrera getting hurt. But I just feel like, would it have been the worst thing had they re-signed Gleyber Torres and just had him play second and Jazz play third if you were going to do that anyways? But I guess, you know what? This is forward thinking. I mean, I don't think the Yankees anticipated that, Jazz Chisholm was going to get hurt. And then, Oswaldo Cabrera got hurt. And now all of a sudden, you had Yorbit Vivas and Peraza playing more. And then DJ comes back and you just slid him at second while Jazz was hurt. So you could also look at it at that we really, that's really just, you didn't see these things unfolding. But because I think if you had Gleyber Torres at the top of the lineup, you have your leadoff hitter, and he had a good, last month or so with the team, had a good postseason, the lineup would have been even better. But look, that's being greedy. This team is playing really well right now. And, look, with the base running and the defense, that's ultimately why Gleyber Torres is not a Yankee. Had that not have been a problem, he probably would still be a Yankee. That's why he's not here, in my opinion. And he really didn't get that much money from the Tigers. He's there on a 1-year deal. So, But yeah, so Jazz Chisholm is going to slide over to third. And like I said, he's a team player. He's a team guy. He loves being a Yankee. So embrace him. And I know he wasn't hitting well before he got hurt, but maybe he'll be a different player when he comes back. So, but like I've been saying, it's going to be a fun series. Hopefully, it'll go a lot better than the World Series. And then maybe this won't be the only time that the Yankees and the Dodgers face off this year. Maybe we see another series down the line in October once again. But we have a long way to go. There's plenty of baseball left to be played. Got the trade deadline, and there's some teams that I do worry about in the American League. I worry about the Detroit Tigers, the team that Gleyber Torres is on, that I mentioned. They are having a very good season. They have the best record in baseball right now. And they played the Dodgers to start off the year, and I think they lost the series, but those games went into extra innings. Those are some very good games. So that's a tough team. And they got the best pitcher, arguably, in Tariq Skubal. So that could be a team that throws a wrench in a potential Yankees-Dodgers World Series rematch. So, and you know what? I'm hoping that Aaron Judge has a big series, because of all of, the memes out there with him dropping the ball out in center field. Just go out there and rake. And he usually does against the Dodgers. He usually does. When they had the Players' Weekend back in 2019, which I know they had to wear those uniforms during that series. He had a good series there. Even the series that he injured his toe, he homered in there in that game. So I'm hoping for a big series out of Judge. Again, reminder, tonight's game is on Apple TV. So, if not, listen to Dave Sims and Susan tonight if you can, if you got a radio around or anything. And then, I know, it's just like every game is nationally televised. Because last year what they did was, and I said this also on the Knicks recap when we touched upon this series with Ben a little bit, is when it was on Apple TV last year, you had it on Apple TV, but you also had the Yankees and the Dodgers broadcasters doing the game. So why couldn't you have done that? But they want you to go to Apple TV. So I did cave, and we have it for at least tonight. Because I'm like, this is a big game. I want to watch this. I don't want to be listening to it. So I'll be able to watch it tonight, and then we'll keep it for a little bit. Maybe I'll watch some shows that are on there. If any of my friends are watching or listening, they want me to watch Severance, which I was able to watch the first episode of, but I haven't been able to watch anything else. So maybe I'll dive into Severance, get through it, and then just say, all right, I'm done with Apple TV for now. But yeah, so big weekend. Also, you got the Knicks tomorrow. Make sure to check out the Game 5 recap of Knicks Pacers. That should be out now, or listen to it if you want on Spotify. And that is pretty much it. So I hope everybody has a good weekend. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Like and comment the videos. Also follow us on TikTok as well. That's also in the description. And that is it. So until next time, I'm Kenneth Grunfelder signing off. Have a good weekend, and I will talk to you guys next time. Take care.